If there's one boss in Path of Exile 2 that's given players the most trouble thus far, it's Jamanra the Abomination. The final boss in Act 2, Jamanra is easily one of the hardest challenges in the entire game, and he's almost impossible to beat on your first try. For those of you who have spent hours or even days getting clapped by Jamanra, that stops now. I'm Joey with esports.gg, and let's find out how to get past this mother. To start off, Jamanra is located at the end of the Dreadnought Vanguard in Act 2. This location has a level recommendation of 32, but it's my advice that you try and do all you can to be slightly over leveled before taking on Jamanra. While you can beat the boss at level 32, it's extremely difficult even if you're in a party, let alone as a solo player. I was at level 34 when I finally won and still had several close calls with the boss. Speaking of being in a party, that's my biggest piece of advice for you to get past Jamanra. Unless you're a POE purist, there's absolutely no harm in partying up with friends or random players in your server to get past the boss and progress to Act 3. While more players in your party will increase Jamanra's overall HP, which is already pretty high, having extra players to deal damage and revive you if you die will potentially save you hours of frustration in the end. The best way to join a party to defeat Jamanra is to use the social menu in Path of Exile 2. You can access this by pressing Options on controller or J on keyboard by default. In the social menu, go to the Party tab and press Join Party. You can also make your own party and title it something like Looking to Beat Jamanra Final Act 2 Boss. If you choose to join a public party, scroll down the list of available parties until you find one that's either looking to beat Jamanra or going through the Dreadnought areas. When you find a party you like, join it and then warp to the players in the party to meet up with them in-game. From there, either go through the Dreadnought until you reach Jamanra or enter the Jamanra fight straight away. If you're not having much luck finding a party to beat Jamanra, try to switch servers or simply wait a couple of hours. You'll have a better chance to find a suitable party during peak hours of Path of Exile 2, which is around 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time US. Now with all that out of the way, let's talk about Jamanra himself and the fight awaiting you. This boss fight technically has two phases, but Jamanra's HP won't restore itself at any point like during the Count Geonor fight. The first phase sees you enter a small, circular arena that's fairly easy to navigate. At the start of the fight, Jamanra doesn't waste any time trying to kill you, especially if you're a melee character. The boss has a plethora of incredibly strong melee attacks and won't usually attack you by himself at range. Instead, he uses enemy spawns and some other mechanics to deal damage to you while you're not in close proximity to him. The main element Jamanra uses is lightning damage, so equipping a charm that reduces that element is highly recommended. As for the attacks themselves, Jamanra has several that you need to watch out for during his first phase. The first is a lightning strike that Jamanra uses when you're in close range. It can be predicted and easily dodged, but it's something you need to watch out for if you're playing close. Following the lightning strike, the next attack you'll likely see is a spear throw, which is more of a ranged move. Jamanra winds up to throw several spears in your direction and come quickly one after the other. You need to be careful here, as dodging too quickly or in the wrong direction can make it so you get pelted by the rest of the spears. In some versions of Phase 1, Jamanra will also summon a desert storm that completely takes over the arena. You cannot be in the middle of the arena when the storm is summoned, as you take massive damage every tick you're in the crossfire. Move to either side of the arena to avoid being hit too badly by it. If you're caught in the middle, that's likely the end of your run. The last major attack you'll see in the first phase is the one that has likely killed you more often than any other. Jamanra summons 3 electric pylons that can do one of 3 things depending on how they are formed. The first formation sees the pylon stay in the air for a few seconds before striking the ground, creating a massive AoE explosion. You need to watch where the pylons are in the air and get to the other side of the arena quickly to avoid them. The next pylon formation makes it so the pylons follow you around the arena, dealing lightning damage if you get too close. This one isn't too bad, but can be annoying while you're trying to deal damage to Jamanra. The final pylon formation arranges the pylons in a triangle so they make an electrical field in the arena. Simply stay to the sides of the lightning and try to attack Jamanra at range during this period. After you've dealt around 40% of Jamanra's HP, Phase 2 will begin. This sees Jamanra exit the Dreadnought and bring the fight to the desert. You'll be thrown off the vehicle and out into a slightly larger arena. Here's where Jamanra really turns up the heat. Some of the attacks from Phase 1 are in Phase 2, but you'll also see a number of new attacks. The most obvious one during Phase 2 are the tornadoes that spin around the arena. You have to do your best to avoid these, even if it means giving up your position. Getting tangled in the tornadoes deals massive damage to your HP, so avoid them at all costs. The biggest attack from Jamanra himself during Phase 2 is a ground slam with a sword. This is another huge AoE attack that hits in a straight line, exploding any player caught in the crossfire. Luckily, Jamanra swings the sword overhead before the attack is performed, so all you need to do is dodge in any direction opposite of where the boss is facing. Other attacks in Phase 2 respawn the pylons and also create an electrical orb that deals lightning damage around the arena. However, these are more of a nuisance than anything, so just avoid them when you see them on the field. Finally, when you're close to beating Jamanra, the savage that he is summons a giant portal of fire that sucks up anything in front of it. Stay as far away as possible from the portal to avoid taking damage from it. Usually, Jamanra stays close to the portal when it's active, so either deal damage at range or back off for a few seconds until it's gone. If you're playing a range character in Path of Exile 2, you'll likely have a better time in this fight than a melee character. Jamanra is more dangerous at close range and has forgiving timings with his longer range attacks. Try to stay at a safe distance during the majority of the fight, watch the pylons in the first phase, and avoid the tornadoes in the second phase. Unfortunately for melee characters, you'll have to master this fight before you'll see Jamanra fall. Understanding the timings for all of Jamanra's close range attacks is crucial to keeping your HP up. It also doesn't help that Jamanra himself has a truckload of HP, so you can't even brute force your way through like you normally could. Regardless of what class you're running, it's far easier to beat Jamanra in a party. I highly recommend using the party finder to join a group so you can all beat this boss together. Hopefully, I helped you out a little bit in your quest to beat Jamanra in Path of Exile 2. If you've already beaten the boss, let us know how you did in the comments below. You could be saving someone hours of frustration.